Okay, thank you everyone for joining us in this amazing event. You know, initially we planned to open up this event only for our missionaries and Christian workers, but we realized that many others also need it. So we are glad to open up to many others who are joining with us. And I am Stephen, a missionary with Layman's Evangelical Fellowship, working for the Lord in Itanagar, Arunachal Pradesh. And many of our people from Arunachal also are joining. We welcome you all. And from many other parts of India, we are very glad that you could join us here. And, to say a bit about Dr. Bhanu Prasad, I got to introduce to him only about 2 weeks back when I was actually kind of sick. I was wondering whether it's COVID or what. One of my friends sent me a link, and when I watched, I was, really happy. Immediately went and then took D3, and I found it to be very useful and helpful. And I began to introduce to all my friends and everyone all around. So that's how I got to know Dr. Bhanu Prasad. Dr. Bhanu Prasad, who is basically from India, has been in US for the past 30 years. Currently, he is residing in New York. He did his post-graduation from Hyderabad Central University and his doctorate in pharmacy from Creighton University. He is currently the president of Long Beach Chemists, New Hyde Park, US. So today's program will be something like this. I'm going to right away give the time to Dr. Bhanu Prasad. He is going to, tell us about, about the disease and what is his approach and what he recommends and suggests. This is not the first or the last of his Zoom meetings, the endless number of Zoom meetings that he has taught them, churches and groups of people. So he's going to tell us about the disease and his approach. And secondly, we are going to have certain questions from our side. My wife is here. She's going to help us read the questions. And afterwards, the forum will be open to all the people. So whoever has any question, be ready to ask the questions. So thank you once again, Dr. Bhanu, for joining us. And I give the time over to you.
Thank you, dear brother. Thank you so much for having me here. And it is a privilege to be among the servants of the Lord and who have been working in various parts of India. That is truly our calling as believers in Jesus Christ. And what we are doing now here is no different in bringing the good news. Not only of the gospel, but gospel has many implications, and this is one of them. When I think in the past decades and past centuries, whenever there is a crisis like this, I think believers and the God's redeemed were on the front lines, bringing so much comfort to the troubled. So. See, this pandemic has been one of the toughest the humanity has faced in the last, I think, in a generation or two. Okay. The reason why this has been so tough is there is a lot of misunderstanding with respect to what this disease is, and even now, the traditional understanding of this disease is very extremely lacking in its completeness in explaining what this disease is all about and how this disease spreads. And from the beginning, we've been told so much of information, which was corrected again and again and again and again. And same thing with what is going on even now, how this disease affects humanity, and that too is able to exact its toll in a very short order and very short time. and that is what is causing so much of fear among the populace. So yeah, just with that, just brief introduction. There is if there is is there a hope in all this? Absolutely, there is. Absolutely, there is. There is no question that there is. And the thing is, when God designed our system, He did it well. Everything God does is good, and we can trust Him implicitly, and we can trust His design implicitly. There is a beauty in this, in God's design. If what we are facing and what we are experiencing is the problem that comes from being irresponsible with what God has entrusted to us. There is no question in my mind. I think for the past 1 year, what I have seen in this, I think confirms it and solidifies that assertion, if you will. So yeah, with that introduction, let's address the questions. These, I think, Pastor has brother has a set of questions that were prepared. So one by one, if we can go through them, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'm just ready in a second. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, here's my wife. She is going to help us read this. Yeah.
Dr. Bhanu, thank you very much and for giving us the time. And the first question starts with like vitamin D, but all these questions are from the layman's point of view. We don't know much about the technical or the medical details, so we would like you to explain what is the significance of vitamin D in mitigating COVID-19, and it would be good if you would explain about COVID-19, what exactly it is for us laymen. Like, why is it so,
Okay.
dangerous kind of a thing?
Thank you so much, sister. This is this question. It just encompasses the whole, the entirety of the program. Okay, what is COVID-19? COVID-19 is coronavirus disease, which was discovered in 2019. So that is how it was. So it was named. And coronavirus is the class of virus that occurs naturally. But this virus, there are very remarkable differences between this one and the previous coronaviruses that infected people. So the previous one, the significant one was SARS, that was in 2002. See, these are so named because these appear like the structure appears like a crown. Okay? It's a corona, and this virus is an enveloped virus. Okay, means there is a shell around it, and there are these spike proteins all over all over its surface. This spike protein, this virus itself does not have self-replicating mechanisms. That means bacteria can replicate it on its own. Bacteria can multiply on its own, but virus itself cannot replicate. Virus really is not a living thing. It is a so virus itself is virus cannot replicate on its own. What it has to do is it has to tap into our cellular transcription mechanisms, means our cellular multiplication mechanisms, cellular protein synthesizing mechanisms to be able to replicate itself. So for that to happen, what it has to do is it has to latch on to some receptors on the cells. There are many receptors on the cells. This receptor is of particular importance is ACE2 receptor, ACE2 receptor. These the spike proteins it's like a lock and key, receptors, and the proteins that associate with these receptors are lock and key. So it latches on means it just fits well into that receptor. These spike proteins fit well into the receptor. That is how the virus itself, the virion, the viral particle, is incorporated or assimilated into the cell. Once it goes into the cell, it opens up, the shell opens up, and it injects its, this is an RNA virus. It injects its RNA into the cell, and the transcription, the paraphernalia of the cell, like ribosomes and Golgi bodies, what they do is they take these instructions and start making these proteins that are required for the viral assembly or viral replication. So these proteins are made, okay, and in large quantities. See, these cellular transcription mechanisms are useful. They're essential for human survival or for our body to survive, because our body requires so many proteins that it needs for its daily living. So it takes that mechanism and it starts producing, the cell starts producing these proteins that are of the enemy, origin. So that is how, once the proteins are ready, what it does is the virions reassemble themselves. So one viral particle enters and many viral particles come out of the cell and the cell dies. So that is when we say viral replication, that is what we mean. Once the viral replication, see, the main feature of difference is in 2002 there was SARS, and in 2010 there's MERS. Okay, even though they were more deadlier than this, the thing was fortunately those things were not as contagious, not as communicable as this is. Okay, and this, in overall its virulence or overall effect, it is not as fatal as the MERS or even the SARS. But the problem here is it spreads much more rapidly. The viral replication potential in this virus is 3 to 4 orders of magnitude higher than what it was with the previous viruses. Okay, so what does that mean? That means in a short period of time, this can create such an extremely high viral load. Okay, that is the problem, really. Okay, it is, so when this viral load is created, what it does is it activates our immune system. So our immune system is designed to protect us from any invading organisms like pathogens, like viruses and fungus or bacteria. So when in a short amount of time, when the humongous amount of viral load is created in various parts of our body, mainly the lungs, that is when the immune system gets activated. Okay? Once the immune system gets activated, there is a specific path those immune reactions take. And when those immune reactions do not proceed in the right way, that means if our immune system does not work as it is intended or as it is designed, that is where the real problem with this disease is. Okay, that is when immune system gets activated, and it is the virus is, for the most part, will be eliminated and is eliminated by the immune system, and then this immune system, this overactive immune system, starts producing something called cytokines and chemokines, and these are the cytokines that are extremely inflammatory. They're pathogenic. They produce a lot of inflammation in the lungs. Wherever it sees the viral load, that is where this immune system is extremely active, and it starts producing these cytokines in its effort to fight against this disease. And that is what causes the major damage to the lungs. Okay? If we can protect the lungs during this time frame, this what I call the active phase of this infection, we would have protected the person. Okay, and so that is briefly what COVID-19 is and how it affects us in this. So where does vitamin D fit in? Okay, that is a very good question. So in every cell of our body, there is a receptor called vitamin D receptor. Okay, this vitamin D receptor is expects to be occupied by vitamin D. And the problem is, most of the population around the world is vitamin D deficient. So how does vitamin D control viral replication? So this nuclear receptor that is in the nucleus of the cell, it controls most of the, see, it is like a, you know, it's like it has the effect of controlling, means it can modulate so many functions of our cell. Okay? And one of the things, one of the mechanisms it modulates is the cellular transcription mechanisms. That means these protein synthesizing mechanisms. So if the vitamin D receptor is occupied by vitamin D, that is like a perfect combination, then the cell starts working the way it is supposed to. Okay, and in the same, what happens is this: for cellular transcription mechanisms to work properly, the vitamin D has to be present in proper levels. Okay, if the vitamin D levels are not proper, they are, if a person is deficient, this mechanism can be very easily hijacked by the virus or any pathogen to make its the foreign proteins rather than the native proteins. Okay, if that be the case, what happens is, this is, if vitamin D receptor is properly occupied, it can, it will have the discernment as to, probably what to make or what not to make. So it is if vitamin D levels are present in proper proportions, it can suppress the viral replication. So vitamin D is the proper antiviral drug that we all have been looking for. That is one way, and there are multiple ways vitamin D is instrumental in letting us combat this illness. And the second way is there are in our immune system there are two branches. One is innate immunity, and the second one is adaptive immunity. So if the same thing in all the immune cells, this vitamin D receptor is present. If the vitamin D receptor is occupied by vitamin D, that means having proper levels of vitamin D is so important. This innate immunity starts working properly. That is the first line of defense. Okay, and I mentioned chemokines, and if vitamin D is present in proper levels, and this vitamin D is properly complemented with vitamin D receptor is properly complemented with vitamin D. That is when it upregulates these chemokines. There are several of them. There is no reason to go into the names. So it starts producing more and more and more of these chemokines, which are naturally antiviral compounds, and they latch onto the viral envelope and pokes holes into this viral envelope, and virus, that virion, becomes non-viable. So that is the second way. That is the first line of defense. So for this disease to affect us, okay, the way it is, there are so many things that have to fail in our body. Okay? And this is the second. And the third way is, I'm going to explain, there are total 6 ways I've been explaining. Okay? The third way is the adaptive immunity. Adaptive immunity is the non-specific, specific immunity. Okay, so this adaptive immunity has 2 branches. Okay, one is Th1 branch, the other one is Th2 branch. This is from basic immunology. Okay. And the Th1 branch, everybody in all the immunologists and all the doctors should know that the Th1 branch produces a lot of cytokines which are very inflammatory, pro-inflammatory. And that is where this IL-6, interleukin-6, comes from, which is of very significant, which is of high significance in this disease. That is what we measure. As IL-6 goes up, the saturations come down. Saturation oxygen levels in the blood comes down, because IL-6 is an extremely caustic substance which can produce a lot of inflammation on the gas exchange surfaces of the lung, that is alveoli. So once the alveoli is inflamed so much, it loses its ability to exchange the gas, the carbon dioxide and oxygen. There has to be a proper flow of this. Oxygen has to come into the blood and carbon dioxide has to leave. And this membrane has to be very thin. And what happens is, because of this inflammation, that membrane becomes thicker and thicker and thicker, and lung starts getting filled up with fluids. And that is where, as the IL-6 is going up, the saturations will fall down. Okay, that is coming from IL-6 is coming from Th1 branch of the immune system, okay, the adaptive immune system. And Th2 branch is anti-inflammatory. It generates anti-inflammatory cytokines. Both cytokines fight the virus, but one is anti-inflammatory, which protects the host, which protects our lungs, which protects our bodies. Okay, and in one way, it just the first way is it causes all the damage. So where does vitamin D come into this? Okay, vitamin D, if vitamin D is present in proper proportions, these immune reactions, they proceed not into Th1 branch, but they always shift towards Th2 branch. Okay, in a person with vitamin D deficiency, these immune reactions proceed always towards Th1 branch, and that causes a lot of inflammation, not only in this viral illness, but if you look at any number of autoimmune disorders that are affecting humanity now, and this is where most of the inflammation comes from, Th1 branch. So where does vitamin D fit in? Vitamin D is everywhere. Vitamin D is the real solution. If we understand this simple fact, a simple aspect of our immune system, and then we will know it is not the virus, but it is the immune system, and it is dysfunctional immune system. It is not functioning the way God designed it. It is not functioning the way God intended it. That is what briefly what COVID-19 is and where vitamin D comes in.
That was a very clear explanation, and thank you very much, Dr. Bhanu. So, going on to the next question, where do we get vitamin D from, and why are people generally deficient in vitamin D?
This is another excellent question. Okay, so where do we get vitamin D from? Vitamin D we get from when our skin is exposed to the sunlight, that is ultraviolet B rays in the sun, when they irradiate our skin. Okay, there is a substance in our blood called cholesterol. We all are familiar with it because humanity has been fighting a war against this wonderful, wonderful substance. It is cholesterol. I always say, forever, cholesterol is not the problem. Cholesterol is the solution. Okay? And that caused a lot of controversy. But cholesterol is the beginning substance of a beginning molecule from which vitamin D is made. So vitamin D is uh, yeah. So when we have proper cholesterol levels, and that cholesterol comes to the surface of the skin, how does it come there? There are pathways, the sulfation pathways in our body, and those sulfation pathways, if they work properly, okay, and if they are doing their job, if our body are these pathways are properly activated, then this cholesterol can be transported to the skin. Okay, and when we go into the sun, like we used to a generation or two ago, people were working in their fields, taking, just having breakfast and going into into the sun. um, then they get exposed, and people who are working in the fields, they get exposed to the sun all the time, and they take proper balanced diet, and they make a lot of vitamin D. And at one point, according to some studies, okay, could you hold on a moment, please? Just a minute. I'm getting a call, multiple calls. Just a moment. I have to take this one, just one call, please. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so when this cholesterol transport, if we have proper cholesterol levels and these cholesterol transport mechanisms work properly, and when we go into the sun, that is when our body starts making a lot of vitamin D. Okay? And but in this modern day, nobody goes out anymore. Nobody gets out into the sun anymore. Especially there are a lot of myths with respect to how vitamin D is made and which sun rays, what time of the day we need to go into the sun from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. That is where the ultraviolet B rays are present in the sun. Okay? And the reason why most of the people are deficient is because of that. And we don't go into the sun, and we don't eat the right stuff. And our food is so much, it is completely inundated with so many agricultural chemicals, which completely destroy these sulfation pathways, which bring this cholesterol to the skin. And there is so much of failure at every step of the way. And we do not get enough minerals in our diet, and which are and minerals play an important role. These are cofactors in most of the biochemistry that happens in our body. And we are, all in all, we are deficient nutritionally. And that is the reason why we are deficient in vitamin D, because we don't go into the sun, we don't eat the right stuff, and we are exposed to so many chemicals, and which are present ubiquitous in the processed food. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhanu. That is very clear. And the third question is, for common people like us, they say that COVID-19 is a flu-like disease. Why is it that with the common flu, the immune system does not attack the lungs, the dysfunctional immune system or whatever, does not attack the lungs, whereas with COVID it does? I mean, it's like a mystery for us, like common people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Flu. See, there are several viruses that we have. They affect, various parts of our body. For instance, hepatitis is a virus which affects the liver most of the time. Okay, and flu, it affects the respiratory system. And this virus, it has the potential to affect every aspect of our health. Okay, so why doesn't flu cause the damage to the lungs that this virus does? That is another wonderful question. Okay. The flu is the one thing about flu is when we get flu, a lot of different people are affected differently. Okay, and some people do not get affected much. Okay, and some people feel these symptoms worse than the others. Okay, even flu can be fatal in some people. Okay, all of them. See, all these symptoms, the symptoms that are the range of these symptoms experienced by various people, that is because of the immune system. Okay? When immune system starts generating these cytokines, those cytokines are the ones which make us feel the way we do, like the sneezing, sniffles, or fever, or all these things are caused. They originate from the immune system. Okay, and flu, this virus can create a humongous viral load, and also the viral particles itself are very different from the flu, and the way it accesses our cells, and it replicates itself is far more different, and the amount of viral load this virus can create is far more higher than what flu can do. So usually flu is seasonal, and we all are familiar with its effects, and it stays for 7 days and it just goes away. It is a self-limiting disease. Okay, and this also is self-limiting. But if we can survive this for 14 days, the disease probably will go away. But the problem here is the lungs can get affected so badly, okay, during this 14 days. The thing is, the flu lasts about 7 to 10 days maximum. And here, what happens is there are two stages in this illness. The one is the first 10 days. where the symptoms are very mild, this is when the virus is replicating feverishly. And during this viral replication period, yes, we do get flu-like symptoms. But the second phase, when the immune system is activated, and that is from the 10th day onwards, okay, that is where the biggest problem is. When the immune system is activated to this, the humongous viral load, and that is when it's like it has to fight this, because the host has to survive, it has to fight it. And during that fight, our lungs become casualties. So that is the main difference between the flu and this. This is the one is the viral load, and the immunogenicity, the immune means the activation of the immune system, and this virus, it exposes the discrepancies or the problems with our immune system like no other virus did in the past.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhanu. It has been very enlightening. And we go on to the next question. We hear that obese people are more at risk. Is it a myth? If it is not so, if it's not a myth, why is it so?
Okay. So whether obese or not, the question that needs to be asked is not the why there are some obese people who get affected a lot, and there are very thin people, very fit-looking people, they are affected also. The question is, how is their immune system working? If the immune system is not working properly, if the immune system is not working under the effect or under the influence of under the controlling influence of vitamin D, if the obese person gets infected, yes, the cytokine storm, these cytokines, okay, they are like a, they develop, or they are generated like a tsunami, if you will. Okay, see, in obese individuals, the blood volume is higher, and I think the immune cells are a lot higher, and they have the potential to generate a lot of these cytokines, which can be very caustic if their immune system is not functioning properly. So whether obese or whether fit people, if the immune system is not working properly, that is what causes the problem. Um, not There are so many obese people whose immune system is working well, and they have survived this without any problem. So it is not the obesity, it is the immune system.
Thank you very much, Dr. Banu. And so, uh, you know the condition here, particularly in our country, India. We see death everywhere. We have relatives dying and friends dying. It has been a very tough time. So, for those of us, we say, okay, we have not been affected by COVID, but what are the preventive measures that we can take so that we don't get this disease?
See, the thing is, we will. There is. It's a foregone conclusion that every one of us will be affected by this. Okay, so how do we protect ourselves? Okay, so vitamin D is so important. It protects us from various aspects, almost all the aspects and all the challenges posed by this disease. The first order of business is bring up our vitamin D levels to their proper range. Okay, and and see, as soon as we bring up the level, see, we have let this immune system not function well for years, for decades in some people. Okay, and just supplying it with a lot of vitamin D and bringing up the levels and asking the immune system to do its job is like asking a little child and giving this little child an aeroplane and asking him to drive or to pilot that aeroplane without learning it. So immune system, yes, the first step is bring up the vitamin D levels as quickly as possible to their proper range. How do we do that? See, there is, I think, by God's grace, we have this vitamin D supplement in India, which is available in 60,000 units. All adults can take it, once a week. For if you've been taking once a week for the past 2 years, your levels would be proper, and your immune system would be working properly. Okay? But in this pandemic situation, is there a way to bring up these levels very quickly? Yes, absolutely there is. Okay, we can take, one capsule 2 times a day for 7 days, and then go to then going to one capsule once a week. So this initial bolus, the higher doses for 7 days will bring up the levels to the range. But the constant input, because we are facing in this modern day and age, there is a lot of inflammatory influence that we are faced with, inflammatory challenges that we face with, and this extreme heavy inflammation and inflammatory influence or chemical exposure can consume vitamin D. So, and also it is dependent upon your individual makeup and individual exposure. So in some people, vitamin D is consumed higher at a higher level, higher rate than others. So you need to come to you need to estimate or come to an estimation as to how much your vitamin D consumption is. Okay, so in most people, the 7 days of twice a day and once a week should work properly. So only way we can ascertain if it is proper or not is by getting tested. So do not get tested right after 7 days. Okay, your numbers will be artificially high. Okay? But wait for 3 months. Okay, so take these 7 days and once a week for 3 months, and then get tested, and that will bring up your. If you have vitamin D levels between 80 and 100 nanograms per ml, here there are two units here. Okay, nanomoles per liter or nanograms per ml. I'm talking about nanograms per ml. So if your vitamin D levels are between 80 and 100 nanograms per ml, and that is a very good range to have. So yeah, that will be the dosage that will bring you up to that level.
So, Dr. Bhanu, how about vaccinated people? They also, uh, is it advisable for them to take this, or is it okay, you're already vaccinated, so you don't need to take this vitamin D? Is it like that?
Okay, that is another a problem that we are facing with vaccinated people or non-vaccinated people. The immune reactions that are that need to happen, okay, if it is a wild exposure to the virus or the vaccine, the pathway is the same from the point of exposure to the point of developing immunity. The pathways are the same. All these pathways are controlled by vitamin D. So in fact, people who are vaccinated, they need to be a lot more careful. What we were told about vaccines have all been, in front of our eyes. Everything has been proved false. Okay, and 2 days ago, this Indian Medical Association past president, Dr. Agarwal, I believe, he got 2 doses of the vaccine and he got COVID and he passed away. And most of the calls that I'm getting are from the vaccinated people who are in ICUs and who have taken the vaccines, for the first dose or second dose, or both. Some people are fully vaccinated. So what this tells us is it is not the vaccine, but it is the immune system. Vaccine does not confer immunity right away unless there is vitamin D, and the controlling influence of vitamin D is extremely important. And also, these vaccines are developed for mostly the spike protein. Okay, the spikes that are on the virus. Okay, spike protein is the strongest aspect of any virus. Okay, so if we have to attack an enemy, okay, we want to attack the enemy at the weakest part, not the strongest part. Okay, so these vaccines, what they're doing is they are setting us up to attack this virus at the strongest part. And what that does is it forces mutations in the viral genome, viral RNA. And that is what we are seeing in India. I think as we started vaccination, the number of strains, mutant strains, have gone up also. Okay, so if we attack an enemy in the strongest part, an enemy will they will fortify their defenses, and that is what forces the mutations in these viruses. So whether vaccinated people or non-vaccinated people, having vitamin D in proper levels is non-negotiable.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhanu. And
Okay, just a moment.
yes,
Give me about just a few minutes. Let me take this call. Okay,
yes,
just
yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
And just
At the moment, Dr. Bhanu is taking a call, an urgent call, so we'll wait for him. Thank you.
As Dr. Bhanu is taking a call, urgent call, so he's attending to. So you can just go through this, which is recommended by him. Usage method of vitamin D3 to effectively combat corona. So there are several ways depending upon your own level. If you need this information, you can contact later. normal people, mildly affected and severely affected. Yes.
I think there are some doctors here who have used vitamin D. Can
Yeah.
they share something by the time Dr. Bhanu will be here?
Yeah. Hi. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what's the question that we are addressing now?
So we can move on to the next question, which is this. Generally, doctors say intake of vitamin D in high dose can cause side effects. What do you say about this?
Yes, if not intake of vitamin D in high doses, it is the level of the vitamin D in our blood. If it stays high, if it stays extremely high for the for a longer period, probably a month, probably to years, that can cause side effects. Okay? And most of the toxicity studies that were done with vitamin D were done with vitamin D2 and not vitamin D3. Okay, and the vitamin D2 can become toxic very lot quicker than vitamin D3 can. Okay? And yes, there are side effects that can happen. Yeah, the calcium levels in the blood can increase, and the creatinine can increase, and which can be the extremely high dose consumption of vitamin D can be hard on the kidneys. Okay? So having said that, okay, and these are the effects that can come over a longer period of time. Let's probably if we keep on taking extremely high doses, for month or months to years. That is what one of the papers that was published by Mayo Clinic says. Okay. That paper says vitamin D is may not be as toxic as we once thought. That was the conclusion. The paper that was published in 2015. Okay. So now we have a choice. Okay, there is this COVID which can completely destroy our lungs within a matter of days, within a matter of even hours. Or okay, we have a choice of taking this vitamin and getting protecting ourselves, protecting our lungs. Once we have our lungs, these side effects can be dealt with. All the adverse effects that vitamin D causes, okay, the hypercalcemia, if you will, okay, that can be dealt with because we are equipped to deal with such problems. Okay? But if we lose a person, okay, what are we going to do? Okay? And the most of the thing the dosage that is the 60,000 units once a week is traditional dosing, and also which does not account for the inflammatory stress that is experienced by in the modern times. Okay, so yes, that the side effects are not fatal. In the past 35 to 40 years, vitamin D toxicity never killed anyone. Okay, but even yesterday, this according to official reports, the COVID has killed almost 5,000 people. So I think what do? We make this cost benefit analysis in using any number of these drugs. For instance, remdesivir. Remdesivir is not being used anywhere in the world except India. Okay? Remdesivir is an antiviral drug which works well if it is administered during the viral replication proliferation phase. Okay? That is the first 10 days, which most of the people are not symptomatic. Okay? And 90% of the people don't experience any, they don't proceed to the second phase of this illness, okay, which is damaging to the lungs. And so remdesivir is better used in the first phase of this illness where the virus is replicating rapidly. That is where the antivirals work well. Okay. But what we are doing is, there are no studies. There are so many studies which prove that remdesivir is not helpful during the serious stage of illness, so much so that World Health Organization has removed remdesivir from its recommended list of therapeutic agents And also the same thing with plasma. Plasma is the antibodies that are from a different person and that are injected into the person experiencing severe symptoms. And that doesn't work because recently ICMR has issued, Indian government has issued a warning that uh, plasma does not have any role to play in the severe disease. Okay, so if we are going by the studies, most of the modalities that are being used in for this disease do not have any proper scientific backing. But if we go to the fundamental science, vitamin D has a lot to offer in this area. And do the other drugs cause any problems? Absolutely, they do. Yeah, remdesivir can cause hepatotoxicity, liver toxicity, and plasma has its own complications. Okay? And the high dose steroids, they have their own complications. High dose steroids work well in the beginning stage, but what these high dose steroids do is they sets the patient up for a delayed phase immune reactions called delayed cytokine storm. And the delayed cytokine storm is extremely violent, and it is much more damaging than the initial cytokine storm. So we are doing this. Right now we are doing using all the modalities in the hospitals, which the intensivists and hospitalists know are not working, but yet we use it. But here we have a solution that has the potential to address all the challenges posed by this disease. And putting it aside, thinking that, okay, 6 months down the line or 2 months down the line, we will experience kidney problems or some other problem, and I think we need to think through this process properly.
Thank you, Dr. Bhanu. And so we come to an important question, which is for all of us: what should we do when we get the first sign of COVID? Maybe a cough or whatever. What should we do? When should we go to hospital? It's
Okay.
a layperson's question.
Yes. So, what should we do at the first sign of COVID? You know what? Let's not wait until the first sign of COVID, and let's incorporate this, prophylactic dosing. One capsule of 120,000, that is a 60,000 IU, vitamin D3. You know what? I think previously I said any generic brand is okay, but be very careful because some of the generic brands are not working properly. And just recently, in the last 2 days, we have seen two people, and who are being given very high doses of these, and they were not working. And we changed the brand within 3 doses, and they have experienced extreme quick relief. so so, and we need not wait till we get the symptoms. But the problem is, people often always do. So when we wait till the first sign of symptoms, that is when we need to start uh, taking this vital nutrient. I would say if there are no symptoms, there is no desaturation. That means saturation is not falling down, and that is when we start taking one capsule at least 3 to 5 times a day, based on the weight of the person. Okay, and that too only for 5 days, and after that, just come down to daily dosing, and that should prevent most of the people, almost everyone, from getting into the active phase of the illness. Okay. So, and the first thing that we need to do is get the pulse oximeter. The pulse oximeter is an extremely important tool in trying to manage this disease. Okay, pulse oximeter has two numbers. The first one is the SpO2, that is the oxygen saturation, and the second one is the heart rate. Okay, and just before the saturations start falling, when this cytokine storm is underway and cytokines are being generated at a feverish pace, body goes into this crisis mode, and that is when the heart rate keeps going up and up and up. Okay, and the saturations remain at 97, 98, and all through the process, pulse rate keeps going up and up and up. And when people go with high pulse rates to the hospitals or doctors, they'll just look at the 97, 98 number, and they say, no, you're anxious or you're panicked, and relax and go home and sleep, and come back when you have breathlessness. That is not a good recommendation. Okay? Because when the pulse rate keeps going up, that is an ominous sign which forebodes the crisis that is yet to unfold. Okay? When the pulse rate keeps going up to 100, 110, 120, 30, 40, 50, and even higher, 160, that is when suddenly the saturation starts going down, because during the time this pulse rate is going up, the active the lung injury is happening. If we can intervene and control this pulse rate by proper administration of vitamin D in some people, when they are in the active cytokine storm, that is when we need to give in extremely high doses, very frequent administration, even every 15 minutes, because this storm needs to be stopped. This is a firestorm that is happening in the lungs, and this pulse rate is an indication of that. Okay, and pulse rate goes up because there is something called renin angiotensin system in our body, and renin angiotensin system, it is being driven into overdrive, the upregulation of renin, because this ACE2 enzyme, which is being which is being consumed, or and also because of the ACE2 receptor that this virus uses, and that completely destroys this renin angiotensin system, and it keeps driving it up and up and up. What is the predictable way to drive it down? And vitamin D. Vitamin D down regulates renin angiotensin system, and in proper doses, it can bring it down. And also, if the heart rate is not able to be controlled, and that puts severe stress on the heart, and doctors can give, there are some agents that not the beta blockers. Do not use beta blockers in this, but there are some agents, ivabradine, that can be used to in conjunction with vitamin D to bring down the pulse. If we can bring down the pulse to normal levels, 70s and 80s, during this phase, we would have saved the lungs of the person. So that crucial aspect is, I have been talking about this for the past 1 year. That crucial aspect is missed from the medical care. And what we are doing is we are waiting for patients to completely fail, the respiratory system to fail, so that they will come to the hospital. Their oxygen demand keeps going up and up and up and up, and then we are fighting a battle that is that has been decided a long time ago, and the battle is lost in these people. So if the pulse rate is going up and uncontrollably, and pulse rate has to be in a healthy individual, resting pulse rate is 72. But if you see a resting pulse rate of 150, do not tell the patient to relax. They cannot. That is physiological. That is not their mental state. So there are so many things that we can take precautions for. Yes, you have to go to the hospital when you start desaturating, like the 98 comes to 95, 95 comes to 92, and 92 comes to 80s, and the patients need oxygen. Okay, and sad reality is when that happens, okay, when going to the hospital is going to prolong their lives for mere days than than save the lives. So there is a window of opportunity with this disease, and if we just monitor all these signs and just apply simple procedures, we should be able to save a lot of people.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhanu. So, one very simple question again: can we take paracetamol and antibiotics for COVID-19?
Yeah. So paracetamol we can take because the antipyretics can be taken if you have fever and a patient is experiencing these ill effects of having fever. Yes, please do take it. Okay, fever is not the problem. Fever is a normal immune response of the body, and when we focus on the fever and these extraneous symptoms, which will go away, okay, in time, and if we just focus on them and completely ignore the lungs, where the real battle is being fought, we would have lost the battle. There is no question about that. Okay? And if we protect the lungs, the fever will respond. And in some people, the fevers are much higher, and they last longer, but they are not fatal. So, yeah, and antibiotics. With respect to antibiotics, this is not a bacterial illness, and also I do not know how this doxycycline and all these things came about. There are some in vitro studies of having some little antiviral activity, but we need big guns, and it's not point solutions for this. Is not an option at this point. We all know very well, because the death and destruction that is being unleashed on societies is just mind-boggling. So antibiotics, yeah, they may be able to prevent secondary infections at a later time, but when this firestorm is going on, we need to address this disease at its origin, that is our dysfunctional immune system.
Thank you, Dr. Banu. So the next question is, normally when some people get COVID, they lose their smell and their taste or whatever, and they are not able to eat. So what should be our diet when we get COVID? Should we force ourselves to eat some specific food, or what should we do?
Yeah, the this virus affects the olfactory nerve, um, and it affects the smell and taste, and so much so that we are not able to eat proper foods. One more thing that happens in this disease is the sodium levels. Electrolyte imbalance is just rampant in COVID patients. So proper electrolytes is important. Salt is important. Hyponatremia is one of the biggest problems in COVID patients. And when your salt levels fall down, you will not be able to not only eat, but just not able to function. Okay, you will not be able to move your muscles, and if sodium levels fall down to a point where 125 or below, and you won't be able to maintain the saturations, because your diaphragm even lacks the ability to breathe. So yes, proper diet is important. I think whether to force or not. Yes, forcing is okay, and the highly energy-rich foods must be consumed at this point, not the carbohydrates. With in conjunction with high dose steroids, that is another disaster, because the sugar levels being high and the insulin levels being high, that forces the another other inflammatory pathways in the body, which add to the inflammation that is already caused by this disease. So, what is the proper diet? Usually, ketogenic diet. Okay, is very good, because that does not raise our insulin response. So that is, and also our sugar levels can be properly managed with such a diet.
Thank you so much, Dr. Banu. And another question is, many are plagued by anxiety during these days, uh, and more so when they get COVID-19. So, does anxiety affect our immune system?
Absolutely, it does. There is no question. Anxiety affects our immune system, and that is what is causing a lot of problems. And anxiety, and people who are in the hospitals, they are doing well, and they look at somebody who died next on the next bed, and they start panicking, and their saturations go down, and they end up on a BiPAP machine. And this is the scenario that is unfolding across hospitals and across even homes. And anxiety causes you to lose sleep, and sleep is a and while you're sleeping, your body does so many wonderful things, and which one of which is properly restoring and repairing and replenishing our immune system.
Thank you very much. And the next question is, what other supplements do we need to take to improve our immune system, zinc, etc.?
Yes, zinc, all the minerals. Okay, not only zinc. Zinc has some antiviral properties, and not only zinc, magnesium, manganese, chromium, and all these the trace minerals are extremely important for the biochemistry to work properly. So, a good multi-mineral supplement will be good to add to our daily routine. Okay, not only during this illness, but even beyond this illness.
Thank you very much, Dr. Banu. And somebody sent in a question about black fungus. When does black fungus occur? What are its effects? And
See, black fungus is an opportunistic fungus the spores of which are present everywhere. Okay, they are present in the soil. They're present all around us, and most of these opportunistic organisms, they're present in the air, and we get exposed to them on a daily basis. What is protecting us from these opportunistic organisms is our physiological barrier, that is our immune system. Okay, and in this illness, the steroids that are being used are such high concentration and high doses that what that does is it suppresses our immune system and suppresses our immune responses to a level where we are completely we are like sitting ducks, if you will, to all these opportunistic organisms to come in and set up shop. Okay, and see, the thing is, a living tissue has proper responses. Okay, a dead tissue does not have proper responses, and most of these organisms are their duty it is to break down the dead tissue, and if we suppress our immune system to to such an extent where our living tissue resembles the dead tissue, that is where these opportunistic organisms take hold, and black fungus is one such organism which starts breaking down this living tissue where immune responses are suppressed to a point where body is not able to mount any defense.
I think that's all the questions from the host side. And I hope Dr. Bhanu can give just another half an hour for others to ask questions. So, yeah, there are some experienced doctors here. If they would like to ask some questions, I open the forum to some doctors to ask questions, please.
Yes, Dr. Bhanu, I am Dr. Stephen. Yeah. So, uh, injection Arachidol, how safe it is to give in this time? Do you recommend injection Arachidol instead of taking capsule vitamin D, if at all there is an emergency or anything?
See, Dr. Stephen, yes, that is a good question. See, Arachidol, it is best reserved for people who are, who are in critical stage and who are not able to take anything by mouth. Okay? And most of the vitamin D, if it is administered by mouth, you can see the results within 15 minutes or less. Okay? And if somebody is desaturating, coming to 80s and in the active phase of this illness, proper doses of vitamin D by mouth can restore the saturations and can almost by 10 points within 15 to 20 minutes. So Arachidol injection, yes, it is better reserved for somebody who is in an extremely intense cytokine storm, mostly the delayed cytokine storm, where IL-6 values are going through the roof, like 400s or 500s and thousands. That is when Arachidol can be used. When this hyperinflammatory process is just is unfolding at a very rapid pace, that is when we may need Arachidol.
Dr. Jayant?
Dr. Bhanu, supposing a patient has over 50, more than adequate vitamin D3 level, do you think high dose will help during a cytokine storm or a COVID infection?
Yeah. So this is the thing, Dr. Jayant. This is yes, we have people. This vitamin D awareness for the last year has been very high. So people are taking high doses of vitamin D, and they're measuring their vitamin D levels. Okay, and if somebody takes one capsule or 2 or 3 capsules over 3 days and gets their vitamin D level checked, their level appears to be artificially high. Their level may come 50 or 60 or 70, but wait for 10 days and their level is less than 10. Okay, so we cannot trust this. If somebody's level is, let's say, 50 or 60, and they're experiencing this cytokine storm, just giving this pulse dosing of vitamin D will be able to bring them out. That is the only hope that we have to bring them out of cytokine storm. And there are studies. There is a Spanish study in which people have been given, higher doses of calcifidiol, that is the first metabolite of vitamin D, D3, and they were able to prevent emergency room admissions, of almost completely eliminate them in the vitamin D group. Okay, so constant input. That's what we have found out. People who are in cytokine storm or delayed cytokine storm, or even post-COVID type situation, the constant input, okay, of vitamin D is important. What that input is up to the clinician to decide. Okay, sometimes it may be 60,000 units, or based on the extent of the intensity of the cytokine storm. Sometimes it may only be 10,000 units. Okay, sometimes it may only be 5,000 units. So this is what we have done. Okay, initially we start with the 60,000 units pulse dosing, and after 5 days we bring them down, okay, to split doses, like 5,000 units, and to prevent post-COVID complications. Post-COVID complications are a reality that everybody is facing right now, and people are getting discharged from the hospital, and their lungs are getting destroyed within the next day or two. Why? Because this immune system is still active. So to bring this immune system back, there is a mechanism going on, and which I have identified, but which we have not been able to study extensively at the moment. But this constant input is very important. So either if it is 5,000 units, if the patient can be stabilized on 5,000 units every 15 minutes, let's do it. If it takes 60,000 units, let's do it. Let's save the patient and then worry about the downstream complications when the patient is living later on.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Karuna. Dr. Bhanu, is it safe in pregnant patients also?
Okay. This is the saddest story that is unfolding, Dr. Karunagaru. This is a, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one small incident. One pregnant woman, 27 or 28-year-old, they came to me on the 28th of April, 28th or 29th of April. Her pulse was going through the roof, like for almost 140, 150. I told her husband, this needs to be properly controlled, and we put her on constant input of vitamin D, and the pulse was coming down almost to 110, 100, and she was doing well. Her saturations were 98, 99. She was 6 months pregnant. And while I was sleeping, and her pulse started going up again, and her husband waited for 6 hours, 6 full hours, and the next morning when I woke up here, and I called, and the pulse was 145, 146, and she started desaturating. So 91, 92. And we rescued her again with high dose vitamin D. Pulse was just 145 to 120, and her saturations returned to 94, 95. That is when her parents decided that she needs to be admitted to a hospital, and they took her to the hospital. There was a gap of almost 12 hours between the last dose of vitamin D, and by the time she went to the hospital, her saturation was mid 70s. Okay, this was May 3rd or something like that, and from that point on, they never administered vitamin D. And on the 15th, of this month, May, they tried to deliver the baby, and they did, and they could not save the baby. And on the 16th, they could not save the mother, so she passed away. So COVID is not kind because somebody is pregnant, or somebody is young, or somebody is a child. COVID, in a dysfunctional immune system, the COVID can be as horrendous as it is in any person with high comorbidities, or a young person, or a healthy person. So pregnant women are no exception here. And also in pregnant women, saving the lives of both of them is extremely important. Vitamin D plays an extremely important role in preventing so many complications in pregnant women, like preeclampsia is rampant in vitamin D deficient mothers. And also the baby's development throughout the pregnancy, it depends upon proper vitamin D level, so much so that 10,000 units daily of supplementation has produced excellent results in women, pregnant women. So Giving proper levels of vitamin D, the same doses of vitamin D in pregnant women is important. And in the first wave, we were able to save so many pregnant women where their pulse rates were going through the roof and they were desaturating, actively desaturating. And we were able to administer same doses of vitamin D. And all of them went on to deliver natural deliveries of very healthy babies. Okay, throughout the almost they were 5th month to almost 8th month pregnant women. So they were they were safe.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Bhanu, I'm Dr. Maggie from Guwahati. Actually, COVID presents in three ways. No, it's only a percentage of people who go into lung damage. There are some others who have a headache and it subsides and they are okay. Others go in for GI symptoms and they are okay. So the vitamin D3 should be administered in the same dose for all the three patients with these complaints, or you have a different.
See, that is an excellent question. Okay, see, how do we tell? Okay, these GI symptoms will not progress to bilateral pneumonia. Okay, how do we tell this headache or fever is not going to proceed to bilateral pneumonia, and which involves the lungs? There is no way to tell. There is no objective measure as to how our immune system functions, or the what level of immune function we are at, what level of immune dysfunction we are at. So there is no way to say, are we willing to take that risk? Okay. So once the patient is in active cytokine storm, the amount of vitamin D that needs to be used is humongous. It is like trying to balance somebody at the edge of the Niagara Falls. Okay. And if somebody is floating in the river, 10 miles down, 10 miles upstream, it is very easy to save them. But once the person is in active cytokine storm, it is very difficult to save them. And some people may not even be able to be saved at the edge of the cliff. It is impossible. So I think it would be wise to, prevent a person from getting from, this point A where, this headaches or these other symptoms, and rather than letting them progress to where, where they are at the edge of this huge, humongous cascade. Trying to save them there would be very difficult.
Thank you, Doctor. One last question, Doctor. Actually, I have gone through so many journals, and I think still your view on vitamin D3 and its benefit in COVID has not yet come into the limelight in the medical journals. I think if we have data, it will be very good so that the system, our medical system, can enforce this right from the top level, WHO, ICMR. Because at present, whatever journals say is actually it is both sides 50-50. It is a better adjuvant. It acts as a protective. It can be used in combination with other medicines. So that is what has been proved. It's coming out in the journals. But definitely, I would encourage you to publish your data so that it comes up to the high level, and the whole world, in fact, will be benefited by vitamin D3.
Yeah, definitely. See, most of this is vitamin D's immune modulation potential is documented, very well documented. You can see so many journal articles. Okay. And this Th1 and Th2 pathway has been very well explained, and that is very well documented. And the renin downregulation of vitamin D is very well documented, and endothelial stabilization of vitamin D is very well documented. And epithelial stabilization, respiratory epithelium stabilization is very well documented. What we need to do as clinicians is we need to put all these things together and think. See, the thing is, the medical journals, okay, the goal of which is, for the past 60 years, unfortunately, we are concentrating on this chronic illness. Okay. And the thing is, we have set up these, these evidence-based mechanisms where it is very easy to prove this evidence in a chronic illness, which may not exact its effects for years down the line. Whereas we cannot apply that same methodology for an illness which progresses to from almost no symptoms to fatality in less than 10 days. So yes, I know, I understand. I think we need to publish these case studies, and I challenge all you clinicians. You can just just use this tool. and come up with this data and publish. The thing is, for the past 1 year, I've been just going around and trying to educate, and I could have sat down and published just 1 or 2 case studies and lost probably hundreds of, probably if not thousands of people. So yes, well, the data will be coming. Data will be coming. There is no question. I think there will be case studies published.
One last question. Like people call and ask how much to take, how many tablets to take. A normal person, they don't have any symptoms. So I'm a little bit hesitant to advise like so many international units of vitamin D.
1 capsule twice a day for 7 days that is not a high dose at all. It is, see, in fact, me also, I got COVID in November. Okay, so, I was advocating this heavy doses of vitamin D, and I got COVID because I was exposed to, in casual contact. I did not get COVID at all during all this, when things were going bad here in New York. But in November, I went to a church where I was surrounded by 6 individuals who were positive, and which was for almost 2 hours in a church service, and which I did not know, they did not know. And I did develop some respiratory distress on the 14th day. And that is when I was taking 1 capsule almost every 15 minutes. And within a day or 2, it was completely gone. And my saturations never went below 93. So, and also, and I was not sleeping well because doing all the programs and taking all the calls, I was not sleeping well. So I put myself at risk, and I took almost 65 lakh units in 7 days, and with no adverse effects, nothing at all. Within on the 17th or 18th day, I was completely fine. And yes, the respiratory distress, it took a little while longer, probably a week or so, for all the symptoms to go away, this cough and all those things to go away. But I never used anything else other than vitamin D.
Okay. You took 15 minutes interval vitamin D tablet.
Yes, every 15 minutes. Otherwise, I was having
15 minutes intervals.
50,000 units. 50,000 units.
Okay. Thank you, doctor.
And that, see, so no, we need to be able to assess the patient where in this cytokine storm they are. So, some people may not even get there. We may be able to prevent them with 4 times a day dosing for 5 days for them to.
Doctor, in the chat box, some questions are coming regarding the vaccine. Which vaccine is better? Do you have any suggestions to give Covaxin?
No, in a public forum, I don't want to be controversial here, but I would not take any vaccine, because this vaccine safety has not been proven. None of these vaccines are not safe or safety tested, and which is so unfortunate. And almost 70 to 80% of the cases that I am talking to are vaccinated people, fully vaccinated people, and who are ending up on ventilators and critical condition. And the problem with this vaccine is this: in vaccinated people, this 10 days and 10 days, the separated by this bilateral pneumonia setting in, that is the demarcation point. Okay? In vaccinated people, this first 10 days is just going away. Their immune system is primed to respond to this viral illness, and it is, and people are showing up in the ICUs. I think you all are witnesses to this, with much more lung damage than they have experienced in the previous wave. So I think vaccines are doing something that needs to be studied. I think the data will come. I think these vaccines are being safety tested on large populations, which is. I don't know how wise it is, but we are doing it anyway. I think we may pay a very steep price for doing so.
Thank you,
Dr. Bhanu, this is Dr. Atul Kumar. Yeah, as you mentioned about vitamin D3, and that also a very high dose. So from the beginning of the pandemic, there have been reports about different kinds of vitamins like vitamin D and vitamin C, and also zinc. And I think you might be aware of in US they published also, I think recently the paper was published by Jelenko. So it's popularly called a Jelenko protocol. So there also they use vitamin D3 at 5,000 IU per day from the beginning of the onset of the symptoms But in addition, they use zinc, elemental zinc 50 mg, and they also use low doses of HCQS, that is 200 mg per day, in addition to azithromycin. And they also published that the their data was quite strong, that all of them, and they actually took only the high risk patients, more than 65 years with comorbidities as well. And they found out that only one patient died who had a history of cancer and who could take it only for a day, but all the rest they recovered. So I mean, vitamin D, as you are mentioning, they also suggest 5,000 IU per day from the onset of the symptoms. So in addition to vitamin D, their complete protocol, does it make sense to you?
Yeah, you see, one challenge here is, in these protocols, they work. The data works well. Probably works very well in different population groups. Okay, and also the disease presentation is very different in different areas, okay, of the world. In India, it is entirely different. Okay, and the same protocol that was developed for a population group in the US may not work. Those protocols may not work, are not working for people in India because
actually, yeah. Actually, I'm basically from Delhi, so
yes.
all my relatives,
Yeah.
you can say 30, 40 of them, they were positive. And I suggested them to start it at the beginning of as soon as they got the symptoms, I told them to start.
Yeah.
And none of them progressed into any severe complications. It's just, just like you were saying.
No, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. The thing is that is a great observation, and it is. See, the thing is, it is not vitamin D ultimately that we need to focus on. It is the entirety of our proper nutrition. Okay,
as I said, vitamin D is also included. That is 5,000 IU per day from the onset of the symptoms, in addition to other things.
Yes, that is true. But thing is, when somebody proceeds to the active cytokine storm, I think vitamin D is the vitamin C will not be able to do anything, or zinc will not be able to do anything. By the time the cytokine storm is underway, the antiviral properties, it's not the virus that we are fighting against. It is our own immune system. So in a person, if yes, that is wonderful. If we can prevent them by administering all this and this preventive measures, that is great. Zinc is a great antiviral. It can reduce the viral load by almost three to four orders of magnitude.
Yeah,
if you can bring down the viral loads early enough, okay, and the immune system may not be activated to the extent that it is. Okay?
Yeah, that's what actually I told them, that they need not wait for the test. The first day, as soon as they get the symptoms, they can start it, and after that they can go for the test. And that was the main point that they brought out from the paper, that they want people not to become serious, that they are stopping the hospitalization. And what I found is that it worked pretty well in the cases where I observed it.
Yes. And my work has been from in patients who are becoming becoming ill with the cytokine storm, and that is where the vitamin D worked very well. And I think unfortunate reality is people are in denial, and they don't even want to believe that they have this COVID until some lab confirms positive or negative. And even that is failing now, because people who are getting negative are they're ending up in intense cytokine storm. So negative or positive doesn't matter. The thing is whether the immune system is is activated or not. That is the question.
Any others?
Thank you very much.
Doctor, one more question. Have you heard of high dose vitamin C? Recently, I heard a cardio physician telling how he was in the cytokine storm and almost unconscious, and they decided to give 25 grams of vitamin C every 6 hours. Within 24 hours, he was out of it. Do you have any feedback on this? Is it just an anecdotal evidence, or is there any basis?
It is possible. See, vitamin C is an antioxidant, and in severe cytokine storm, the oxidative damage that is done to the lungs is tremendous. Okay, so it depends where this person was caught during that, and once the oxidative damage is underway and all these the lung tissue is destroyed to an extent where it is not able to be brought back. Even high dose vitamin C cannot do anything. Vitamin C is important to prevent the downstream complications of the cytokine storm. Okay? And we need to have a comprehensive approach. We need to be able to prevent a person from entering the cytokine storm, or even if they do, we need to be able to mitigate the intensity of it.
Okay. Only thing this person says he came out completely.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
It is possible. There are so many things happening. That is what makes this disease so complex. Okay? And some people are, just drinking ginger tea, and they're reporting excellent results. So, the problem is the complexity of this disease is, it is manifesting differently in different people, and it is manifesting differently in different populations. Okay? And also you look at the countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh, the intensity is not as much. And in most of the meat-eating countries, the intensity is a lot less than what India is experiencing right now. Okay? You look at the countries that are close to the equator. Almost in some countries, there are only probably 10 or 15 cases, since the starting of this pandemic. So we cannot take studies that are performed in Texas, which gets a lot of sun, and apply the same studies and the same protocols to people in Chicago or people in New York. So therein lies the complexity of this disease.
This happened to a doctor in Goa.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Digambar Nath.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir, can I ask you a quick question, sir?
Dr. Bhanu, is it mandatory to take the second dose of vaccine who has taken first dose? If they drop it, any problem with them?
I would not take any dose. If I can answer it for myself, I would not take any dose of the vaccine. And it is up to you, up to everybody, the individual, to decide whether to take the vaccine or not, considering all the evidence, which is not very good. If you look at all the vaccinated countries, look at Chile. The disaster that is unfolding there is just mind-boggling. Okay, and Chile is more than 50% vaccinated, and the same explosion of cases that is happening in India is happening in Chile. And take a look at a country like Seychelles, because the small island country with probably 100,000 population, and their COVID cases have doubled or tripled ever since they started vaccination. And you look at Israel, okay, the highly vaccinated country, but there is a post-vaccine myocarditis, the heart inflammation. The cases are going up. And here in the US, and the people who are young people, 30-year-olds, who are having heart-related issues and heart inflammation post-vaccine, those cases are growing. I think we need to wait for the data and the safety to take either the first dose or the second dose.
Hello.
I think
Hello,
the
sir.
question is, sir, 1 minute. The question is like many people are asking. I mean, as brother asked, right? So if they take first dose of vaccine, and now actually after understanding about the vaccine, if they want to drop for the second dose, will it be any problem, or can we drop if we want? That's what actually.
Yeah.
They're to drop, but does it cause any problem if they don't take second dose?
I don't think so, but I'm not an expert in these vaccines, so okay. I would rather not comment on that.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. I'm Dr.
Yes,
Sujata. Can I ask you one question? That can a 9-month-old pregnant lady, how much the vitamin D doses should be? Is it safe for her to take because she's going to deliver?
Yes,
without any COVID symptoms.
Yeah, what I can go by is what we have seen in the first wave. Yeah, a lot of pregnant women, in their 8th month of pregnancy, 9th month of pregnancy, have taken the higher doses, like 4 to 5 times a day for 5 days, 5 to 6 days. they were safe from the COVID infection. These ladies were having a lot of extreme cough, and some the saturations were probably coming to low 90s, and they were given they took higher doses, and they did very well with the delivery of their babies. And the news that we are hearing is in Hyderabad there are so many women, ninth month of pregnancy, they have died. They've from COVID. So yeah, as I say, COVID is not kind. If somebody is pregnant, it exacts its toll.
Okay. Sir, what brand it is used? Means how many units and all?
See, the brands, the national brands are pretty good, and also there is, one incident that I mentioned in one patient is the brand that they were using is Gen D3. Okay? It's from Beulah Biomedics from Hyderabad.
Okay, what we can use?
Which worked extremely well. The Gen D3 worked extremely well, whereas the other generic brand that they were using failed for 3 days. And just with 3 doses of Gen D3, they came out of.
Suggest in India means for a pregnant woman who doesn't have any COVID symptoms, going to deliver baby. How many how many drugs we can use a day, and which brand?
So the thing is, I'll tell you what, this is the thing. Okay, the goal is to bring their levels up very quickly to between 80 and 100 nanograms per ml. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, that is the question. Okay, and in pregnant women also, okay, taking one capsule, if you're not comfortable giving high doses, just have them take one capsule daily for 10 to 14 days, and then go to weekly dosing. Okay. And weekly doses, if everybody had started on weekly dosing of vitamin D, ever since this pandemic started in last March, I think we would have combated this very well. And most of the people who followed the advice of taking one capsule once a week, after the initial loading dose, they did very well, and they are still doing very well.
Dr. Bhanu, I have a question. My sister was affected on the 21st of April, and we have gone through the COVID kit and we used, but in the middle, I have come to know about this D3 when Brother Stephen has told me. And I watched some of your videos and I administered D3 to my sister. That was 3 times a day. When the symptoms are more, I've administered 5 times a day. But now, over the days, oxygen has come up to 99. And now, for the past 2 days, her pulse is up to 120 to 140. She has a light of feverishness and a mild headache somewhere in the corner. And yesterday, I have given her one tablet for every half an hour. But still, the pulse hasn't come down. But when she sleeps, when she's in deep sleep, her pulse is 79, 80. But when she's active, going around, she's 120, 130, 140. So what can be done, doctor?
So when somebody is active, okay, that is having a pulse of 120, 130, that is quite normal. I'm referring to the resting pulse rate. If the resting pulse rate is normal, you don't need to worry about it. Okay? And her saturation is 99, and her resting pulse rate is in 70s. Please do not worry about this at all. And what you can do is, instead of giving the high doses, what you can do is you can bring down the dose. You can split the doses. Give 5,000 units, okay, more frequently. That should be able to calm any post-COVID type reactions.
All right. The resting means when she sleeps, not when she lies down, right, doctor?
Yeah, no. See, when she sleeps or when she sits down, or just resting pulse rate, not involved in any heavy activity.
When she's resting when she's lying down on the bed, it is 110, 120. But when she goes to sleep, it is coming down to 79.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can talk about this offline. So that's Yeah, the goal is to quell these immune reactions, and cytokine storm can happen even after somebody recovers, and we need to be very vigilant for almost 2 to 3 weeks until the immune system is properly trained and these immune reactions can be directed from Th1 to Th2 pathway.
Okay, doctor. Thank you, doctor.
We have just time for 1 or 2 questions, please.
So one question, sir, please, from me.
Can I ask you one question? I am a master.
Hello. Hello, can I ask, sir?
Yes, go ahead.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Somebody go ahead. Yes.
Please allow me to ask question. Today is my house quarantine is over. Today is the 14 days. So then one of our helpline member told me to use every 15 minutes to taking three tabs for 60,000 IU. I have taken generic medicine. Now I'm okay. Everything is okay. Fever, nothing is there. But my pulse rate is increasing. Always it is being 91, 92, 100 above. Just whenever I had the food or something, and after that it is showing 91, 89. Is it okay? Then,
Okay.
again I have to.
This is very important. Be very careful with do not go for 15-minute dosing if your pulse is 90. Okay, and also as soon as you eat the food, and because if a lot of people have gastric issues, gastric distress, and in those cases, if there is a what is it, a gastritis, as soon as you consume the food, your pulse rate will go up. Okay, do not worry about those things. Okay, that is not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to this pulse rate going up and uncontrollably without almost throughout the day. It's not after you are involved in some activity, or you're walking around, or you ate some food. Yeah, and some people with a GERD, gastroesophageal reflux, your pulse rate will go up. Okay? And because there is distress there, and whenever, and also if somebody is febrile, the pulse rate will go up. But I'm referring to this pulse rate of going uncontrollably high, 140, 150, and just progressively going up and up and up and up. And do not go to 15-minute dosing until until somebody determines, or a clinician determines, that you're in an active cytokine storm. Don't do that. That would be irresponsible. Okay, most of the people should be able to take just 4 or 5 times a day, and for 4 or 5 days, and that should be enough. That should be enough. But if somebody waits, they're in active cytokine storm, and they're actively desaturating, or aggressively desaturating, and the pulse rate is high, that is when these higher doses are recommended. Not that too only for 2 or 3 hours until the pulse rate can be controlled, and then go on to the maintenance dosing.
Sister Sweta, you
Yes,
were
sir.
trying.
Yes, sir. Sure, brother. Sure, brother. Thank you. So, Dr. Bhanu, my name is Sweta. I have actually dialed in because of my father. So, Tanki, last night, his pulse rate is dropping to 70, 72. And there was this need to take him to the hospital. So, we managed to get him to the hospital, but he's very adamant he doesn't want to get admitted at all. So, my admission chase, he started crying. So we couldn't see that, and he insisted he wants to get back home. So we got him back in the ambulance, and we arranged for an oxygen, and we had a doctor to come and help us with the oxygen, and then we had a nurse as well, which is great. However, what the doctor says is, he's a heart patient. Okay, he has already had a bypass, in 2009, so he's at home. But doctor is saying that it is risk for him to be at home. If you want to save him, get him to the hospital. But my dad, as you know, at that age of 74, he's definitely not willing to get out of the house because he's worried because of probably the nuisances that hearing in the newspapers or or TV. Okay, he doesn't want to get there. So we got the nurse and doctor there. But I was just wondering, we are still convincing him, so we can take him to the hospital. But I'm just asking you a question: is there any way that we can save my dad at home, because he's very, very, very adamant not to go, and mom is also supporting him with that. I think they got some kind of a fear.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you say his saturation is 75? 75?
70, yes, doctor, yes. With
And
oxygen of 10 liters, he's getting up to 92. He's not going over that. And the other doctor who's there, he's saying if you're going to increase it 15, it is going to damage the instrument, because the home support will not support him for the 15 liters pressure.
okay, yeah, this is a very, very tough call. It's a, and if he desaturates any further than that, he would definitely need high pressure uh, uh, oxygen. And I don't know which stage. Has he been getting corticosteroids during this time?
No, sir, he hasn't started the steroids because of his age, and also because of his, the underlying conditions that he had, right? But he was doing well up until a couple of days ago. It was 98, and suddenly this has come down. So we just so helpless, since 2 days we've been trying to get him
Yeah,
to the
see,
hospital.
this is the thing. This is what happens when 98, 99, and once the IL-6 activity keeps going up, and the saturations they start tend to desaturate. So has he been? Are you giving him any vitamin D3 at all?
Yes, 60,000 units we've been giving him. I don't think we're doing it in a very frequent basis. He's a bit of an adamant guy by nature itself. When we're asking him to do some exercises and try and keep the things going, he's like, well, why are you making me do this? Well, he's a well-educated guy, but still, he's just a bit adamant, because I don't know, it's of the mindset.
Yeah, what all I can say is this. Okay, this is in every individual case it is different, but frequent administration of vitamin D can help somebody if we can manage them in this active phase of this illness, and we can prevent somebody from desaturating by properly dosing, properly titrating vitamin D. Okay, that's all I can say. And in this specific case, you need to give it a try, and you need to have his doctor give it a try, or give an IM injection so that he can have a baseline concentration of calcifidiol in his blood, and pulse the doses, so that he won't desaturate any further. Once we are able to preserve them during this active phase, we would have we could probably save him. And yes, we have done this in many, and they were able to be saved. And having said that, if he desaturates even further, and he would definitely require high pressure oxygen.
Right, doctor. So how frequently you would suggest that we give him a D3 now at this stage?
I think let's I think we will take this offline, and I need to know, so have you done any blood tests? And see, the thing is, to do specific cases, I think I'll have some doctor call you from Hyderabad, and we'll go through it.
Dr. Bhanu, we have shared the helpline numbers. I think they can call up those helpline numbers, and they'll be able to help
exactly.
you.
Yeah, sure, doctor. That is very, very helpful, doctor, because I just want to, I'm actually sorry to say this, but I'm actually recording what you just said. So I can't give it to my dad, my sister who's looking after, I'm in the UK, and I've got your number. So they haven't got time, because they're always panicking. So I'm going to forward this to her so she can listen, and then she can take the right treatment. And I'll also ask her to do the helpline, so we can get to this, as soon as possible.
Right,
Sorry,
no
doctor,
problem.
for recording without permission.
No problem.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. And also, there is a question on the chat box. With heavy use of vitamin D during COVID, they got cured. And yeah, I know this person who was actively desaturating, and who were able to save them. But serum calcium is 12.1 mg per DL. Okay, the calcium has gone up a little bit. Yes, that is a marginal increase of calcium, which should be able to be corrected by fluid. Okay? And drinking proper amounts of fluids is extremely important during this illness, whether vitamin D or not, because the secretions are so thick. The lungs are, when the fluids are accumulating in the lungs, the secretions are so thick, and the dehydration is a serious risk in this illness. So drinking water, okay, proper amounts of water, and also increasing salt intake, because people do not suffer from hyponatremia. And there are people who are hyponatremic to a point of delirium. So that is another risk. So that's the calcium of 12.1. Within 2 or 3 days, you should be able to bring it down to normal levels.
Sure, Doctor. Doctor, thank you so much for your time, and really appreciate it, Doctor. Thank you so much. I'll call the helpline as well. Yes.
Yeah, that's all for today.
Thank you, Pastor Bhanu. You are very helpful for the body of Christ. We really appreciate you.
No problem.
I just give the time to Dr. Bhanu to give any final remarks, and then we will close.
And also, there is a question here. It says one doctor from CMC asking how this can be done without a prescription. See, I'm not giving any prescriptions, and the thing is, I'm just giving out information so that clinicians can use this and it's properly. And also, vitamin D it's a nutrient. Okay, here in the US, it is an over-the-counter supplement, and it is available in up to 50,000 units per capsule. So it can be, that is within the scope of my practice to be able to recommend nutritional supplements in conjunction with all the drugs that we use for various illnesses. So yeah, that is a very good question. The thing is, this is a tool that, and I have explained the pathophysiology of this disease, and how vitamin D can be another tool, effective tool in mitigating this illness. So it is up to the individual clinicians. Instead of just, I think it is time for us to be open-minded when country and the world is facing a crisis of unprecedented proportions that we have not witnessed in a couple of generations. So I think we need to have all these tools at our disposal. And if vitamin D can be proper, this modality can be implemented, I think I don't have any doubt in my mind that we will be able to save many more lives, especially in the hospital setting, because in the hospital the patient is right there and he's being supported through various treatments that are going on. And if we add this modality to it, I think that would be the right thing to do. And if we educate people in how we can monitor them, and how they can they know how not to enter, or how to prevent them from going into the cytokine storm, we can prevent most of these cases from proceeding to the emergency rooms. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bhanu, for this wonderful time. Especially, I'm sure it is about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock for you in the morning. What is the time there for you?
It's 8 a.m. now.
8 a.m. Okay, thank you. So early in the morning, you gave us your time, and hundreds of people have come and participated. So we are very grateful to all of you, and I'm sure you are well able to help many people with these resources. And we are not paying anything to Dr. Bhanu. He hasn't asked for any fee for this, and he has been doing it as unto the Lord. And so we are very thankful to you, Dr. Bhanu, for this time. And I suppose people in this among these participants probably would like to have some more sessions some other time, and hope they'll be able to benefit many others also. So would you please pray for us, pray for all of us before we close? Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Our loving Heavenly Father, we bow before your majesty. Father, thank you for giving all of us this time, Father, so we can discuss, Father, things that are pertinent to current times. Father, your design is wonderful. You're a great God, Father, who is concerned about humanity so much so that you gave your only begotten Son, so we can be redeemed, Father, from the sickness of sin. Father, not only that, you have given us everything that is, Father, that is needed for our healthy living and a holy living. Father, we thank you for that. And Father, thank you for the things that we discussed now. And thank you for all the things that we were able to talk about. Father, even the controversial things. Oh Lord, we pray that you would use this discussion to bring healing and Father and to many, and Father and bring comfort to many suffering individuals. Father, we pray that you would, Father, use the information that is shared, Father, to Father that will benefit, Father, to the benefit of many individuals who are going through this, oh Father. Oh Lord, we pray that many will come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, even through this suffering. We pray in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll just open it for everybody. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, doctor. God bless you.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Doctor. God bless you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
doctor.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think I'll end the meeting now.
Thank you. We really appreciate